Well, we are back here in our rightful perch. This is Brett Thacker, Dave Shiner with you on Weather Wagers. And, of course, Dan not with us. He is still out enjoying time with his new family. He's got the baby girl. And in fact, he just texted me, good luck today. The baby's sleeping in his lap. And he said that they've been watching many Phillies games together.
Yeah, a little bit of a good luck charm, too. We'll get into that a little later.
We will. So good for him and Colette. That is great to hear. And we miss him here, but I'm running the controls. So if things go haywire today,
blame Brett.
Blame me. So last week we were talking. I was at the beach, had a great week in Cape May. You guys were smoked out here, weren't you, from all the wildfire smoke?
It was pretty crazy. It tasted like campfire all over. It was a nice hazy shade of summer instead of winter. But I couldn't believe how much it actually affected our area. And I actually was in the Philadelphia area, too, where apparently it was bad, too, if not a little worse. And, I mean, I've never seen anything like it. I mean, we've talked about this kind of stuff before, but
it's wild.
It's like you taste it in the air. That's some scary stuff.
It was not pleasant. And, in fact, they did have to cancel some sporting events last Wednesday in Philly because I think it was Wednesday, the middle part of the week, where, I mean, it was worse than smog almost because you could taste it. You could smell like a campfire. So, but they got the games in, and luckily the Phillies went on a bit of a tear. And then I showed up.
Yep. Well,
we took
like
the
Mike
family.
Greenberg over here, the kiss of death.
We took the family on Saturday, and that was the 9-0 shellacking of the Dodgers, and it was not pleasant, but it's an experience. We had a great time at Citizens Bank Park. Unfortunately, the Phillies, we showed up, and the Phillies didn't that day.
Yeah, but they showed up the other two games against a real tough L.A. Dodgers team, which 2 out of 3 ain't bad, as Meatloaf once said.
I do love Meatloaf, the food and the singer. We're going to get into that because we have a lot to cover here in a short amount of time, but it is great to see you, David, and we're going to just tell folks how they can find us. Keep in mind, too, Dan is gone for now, but he'll be back in a few weeks. You can always email us, weatherwagers@gmail.com, and you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, too. Hit us up with your weather topics, sports topics, anything we bring up here on the podcast. We would love to hear about it from you, but we actually want to talk about the U.S. Open. It has been our policy here on Weather Wagers to talk about the big major tournaments. What we didn't get to talk about last week is, of course, PGA and the LIV Tour are now merging. There's been a lot of opinions about this, and we're not going to necessarily weigh in. Let's just put it this way. The majors aren't going anywhere, and they're one of the favorite things for people to bet on.
Yeah, of course. I mean, you have a big field, and, the major is the one that everybody kind of wants to get on their resume. And so everybody, I think, kind of shows up with their best game, and some fold under the pressure as well.
They let these LIV golfers compete. Obviously, Brooks Koepka just won the last one, the PGA Championship. So we wanted to give the forecast. Now, this is for Thursday. The tournament going on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Now, it's in L.A. this year, so that means the
Sunny
TV.
Los Angeles.
Yes, and it's at the L.A. Country Club, the North Course, and it looks like a great kickoff day. Partly cloudy skies, 65 degrees, nice and cool.
Ooh, yeah.
In downtown L.A., and the TV times and things of that are a little different this year. Keep in mind, they're 3 hours behind the East Coast. So normally on a Sunday of a major championship, right, you're sitting down to dinner at 6, 7 o'clock, and you're getting that green jacket on.
Yeah.
They're handing you the trophy. Well, not this year, because remember, when it's on the West Coast, it's all prime time. So I don't know if you know this now, but this year, the first 2 days of the tournament, Thursday and Friday, they are airing from 1 to 8 p.m. on USA Network.
Okay.
And then they're airing in total prime time on NBC, 8 to 11.
All right.
So that's Thursday and Friday. And then the weekend, it's all NBC. On Saturday, full coverage, 1 to 11 p.m.
Wow.
And then 1 to 10 p.m. on Sunday. So the U.S. Open on Father's Day is going to keep you up late.
It's going to be a late night. Yeah,
it's going to be a late night.
It's kind of the opposite of what we usually deal with the Open Championship across the pond. That's all in the morning.
That's all in the morning.
Wrapped up by noon. So it's
and that's
different.
Now the final major with them moving the PGA up a couple of years ago. But let's get into the forecast here. I can at least talk about that. I think it looks like a winner. I mean, it never rains in Southern California. Well, that holds true here. I really think it's going to be nice. There may be a few clouds Thursday as this tournament gets started, but again, David, look at these temperatures. It's going to be in the 60s. We start to see more L.A. weather come Friday. We get into the 70s. Now, that does show some showers across the mountainous regions of California. I think L.A. stays dry, and if they do, it's just a passing shower. But look at how gorgeous Saturday is. Upper 70s. Now, this is Eastern time, but you're talking about L.A. being just perfectly sunny at the LA Country Club for this tournament Saturday and Sunday. You're going to have just picturesque views on the TV. Temperatures in the 70s. It's going to be comfortable for all of the golfers, and it just looks like a winning forecast. So that's what you expect when you have a tournament in L.A.
Yeah, I mean, they place these tournaments in places where they hope they have the best weather. Obviously the Masters gets its highlight there in the spring, but yeah, what else can you ask for a nice, cool, sunny day to smack a club around?
It's just perfect, and as I said too, I think it's going to be a neat thing to see for all of us watching from the comfort of our home. Let's talk about the odds, though. The U.S. Open this weekend. This is coming to us via DraftKings. These are all current numbers as of late yesterday. So once again, you'll notice a familiar tune here with these names, Dave. These, of course, are some of the top players in the world, and the odds makers favor them. Scotty Scheffler still coming in as the favorite. He I believe, has been the favorite in the last several. He was the favorite in the Masters. I know that. Plus 750. John Rahm at plus 900, who won the Masters this year.
Yep.
And then you've got my guy, Brooks, who I correctly predicted to win the PGA.
That's too bad.
His tournament, right?
He took a second in the Masters as well.
And I think he came in with the same odds for the PGA plus 1,200. You can make a nice little return there.
Yeah, for sure.
Rory McIlroy, here's my question with Rory. I mean, he hangs around these leaderboards. He hangs around these odds makers' favorites.
Yeah.
When's he going to do something?
I mean, that's what everybody's kind of waiting for. I mean, they say he's looking good. He's primed for all these majors, and he usually has a Thursday or Friday that gets him behind the eight ball a little bit, and then, no pun intended, he comes roaring back.
He does, but not enough
on it, but not enough. You got to put together the 4 days, and that's how you win majors. I mean,
yep, it's all 4 rounds.
Got to be consistent.
And that has been tough for him. Xander Schauffele, Dan's buddy, coming in at plus 1,600. Do you like any of these names? You're going to pick somebody outside the pack?
I think the smart play is Koepka. Obviously, he's going nuts.
He's hot.
He did win, I believe, one of the tournaments with the live tournaments.
In between
in second, another one. Then obviously second in the Masters, first in the PGA Championship. So I mean, if you're betting chalk, as they say, I think Koepka's the guy. I actually, and I mentioned this in a previous podcast, Max Homa is my guy. He's kind of the new up-and-comer that I like. I like his story. He's right now at plus 2,200. I heard Andy North talking about it, saying that this course is a second shot course. So you can do okay on your drive, but it's really your next shot that wins you, and that's kind of Max's game. He's that, get out there, but then really dialing in on your second shot. So maybe that gives him, if you're looking to do a low bet for a high yield, so to speak, at plus 2,200,
Well, you laid $20 on that, and
you never know.
You might
never
be.
know.
I missed my opportunity.
Yeah.
I had the Brooks Koepka thing right, and forgot to cash in there.
Yep.
Let me ask you this, taking this from another angle. Look at some of these names. I mean, I actually am going to say if I had to put a sawbuck down, I would go John Rahm here.
Yeah.
It's hard to win 2 majors in a year. We know that. I like the power of John Rahm on what I think is going to be a rather long course. They usually are in the U.S. Open. But I want to just ask you before we move on from golf here. Look at some of these names. They've popped up on the odds makers' favorite list every major. If you like golf and you pay attention, you know the names: Scheffler, Rahm, Koepka, McIlroy, Schauffele. Are any of these names, though, getting the average Joe or the average person to tune in? I know what the answer is, but I'm wondering your opinion.
I think if you're immersed in the golf world, you know these names, okay? But you're not going to get what we always like to call the Tiger effect with any of these names.
Bingo.
I think Bruce is about the closest guy right now because he always played only a handful of tournaments and the majors every year, and that was the big slam on him is he's not doing the grind. Bruce Koepka.
Brooks.
Brooks Koepka. Sorry, I said Bruce. Brooks Koepka. Because, his big
and he's kind of the bad boy of golf a little bit.
Yeah, you know, him and DeChambeau have their little rivalry thing going. But
if they built that up more, they might get some eyeballs.
He's now known for doing the grind though. He only plays when he wants to. So that you can look at it one way: are you out of practice or are you fresh coming in? You know.
Yep.
But Yeah, no one has that Tiger effect. I think Rahm's kind of the closest guy right now, just because he's had the success. But
and well, they were rivals, I suppose, at the same time too. Phil is another one of those players. Well, you couldn't say that he had the same effect that Tiger did.
Yeah.
People did tune in for Phil,
Yeah.
and now that those guys are aging out, and certainly Tiger's injuries have not helped him in his career.
Not at all.
It's over. Who is going to get everybody to tune in on Sunday? I got to tell you, I don't think, and especially with the merger now that has upset a lot of people, golf's in a very tough spot.
It is, and you had a guy like Spieth that was kind of being that guy, was sort of putting on Tiger type performances, but that was also short-lived as well. He had his couple-year run, and now, he's always a guy in the mix, but never the guy that's at the top of holding the jug or the trophy at the end of it all.
All right. Well, we want to get into Major League Baseball now. So you're picking at plus 2,200 again?
Yes, for Max Homa. I think
all right.
That's your good long shot bet.
Okay. I like it. And I'm going to go with one of the favorites, John Rahm, plus 900. We're going to meet back here next week and see how we do. Let's talk MLB rainouts and the potential impact here for weather. The Phillies avoid it. They're out in California. We're going to get into their schedule, too, because I know a lot of you do love it when we talk about the Phillies, and we will in just a second. But these are the impacts, Dave, that I think are going to be talked about this weekend. Yankees at Red Sox. Don't they play? Haven't they played like every? I feel like they play every weekend.
I mean,
aren't they Sunday night baseball every weekend?
It always gets the pub that rivalry gets. But they definitely don't play every weekend.
Okay,
but,
I feel like they just.
I think it's weird just because the Phillies haven't had these interdivision games yet,
right?
And everybody
the big
else
ones.
kind of has, so it seems that way.
Well, they play this weekend, and I think they could have the potential for rain each day, Friday, Saturday, and again on Sunday night. Cardinals at Mets Friday. The Mets again, they've had rain in their forecast and been dealing with rainouts and delays and so many things for much of their season. On Friday, they could see some showers that affect their game at Citi Field. And then Angels at the Royals again. The Royals, not that anybody cares, but if you happen to be betting Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, they could see some showers and thunderstorms across the middle part of the country over the weekend. So let's show you the wide map here, because there's going to be several systems at play. And if you're watching this on YouTube, you can see it. If you're listening, I'll try to describe it for you. There's a system, another spoke around an upper level low that's going to come and kind of stall out over New England for Father's Day weekend. Central Pennsylvania points to the south. If you're going to the Carolinas for Father's Day weekend, you're going to hit up Myrtle Beach, Virginia Beach. You should be okay. But look, see how Boston is right there in the muck for Friday, Saturday, and again on Sunday. That is my concern, and I just worry about how they're going to be able to get some of these games in. I also think that, let me see if I can go back here for just a second. When we look at this graphic, too, look at New York on Friday evening, and that is when you're going to have the Mets game. And the Cardinals, by the way, not having a great year, but neither are the Mets. Have you seen their last 10 games?
Yeah, well,
1-9.
Yeah, they're dealing with some injuries over there too, but
Well,
couldn't happen to a better ball club, as I like to say.
Me too. And then, of course, right there in Kansas City, the Royals. So you can see between Kansas and Missouri, they're right smack in the middle. They're going to be dealing with constant showers and thunderstorms through the weekend. So that is your MLB weekend forecast that we like to give you. If you are thinking about betting on baseball, first of all, good for you. You're probably nuts.
Yeah.
Second of all, these are the series to probably stay away from based on the weather. All right. Well, now it is time to chat about our favorite team, the Philadelphia Phillies, because my first question to you this week in our Phillies Chatter segment is, what is this team? And let me set the stage here for a second, because they have been so inconsistent all year, and then they start to go on a little bit of run in June. You start to hear about Kyle Schwarber again, right? He's literally stepping up to the plate, hitting home runs. They go on a 5 or 6 game win streak. Then, yes, I showed up, and they lost 9-0.
Yeah.
And my question coming out of that game, and by the way, driving home, I had to put on a Philly Talk Radio 94.1. taking calls. I think my wife wanted to jump out of the car. But I thoroughly enjoyed it. And the big talk there was about Aaron Nola.
Mm-hmm.
And so my first question before we get into exactly what the Phillies are is Aaron Nola an ace? And the consensus was, no, not really. He's good, but he ain't great. And I'd love your opinion on that. I mean, I was there. I watched him in person. He has a lot of clunkers, and he's given up a home run in his last 10 games.
That is his downfall. So it's hard to say. Ace is a term we use for the upper echelon of pitchers, correct?
Best of the best.
I will say he is indeed a number 1 or number 2 starter, but he hasn't proven to be an ace like Cole Hamels was, like Roy Halladay was. Those guys were aces. You knew you got a W or a no decision every time they were up on the mound. Nola,
even Zach Wheeler is pretty locked in.
Yeah, pretty locked in, but I think he's 5-4 on the season right now. Now that's with some lacking of run support early on.
Exactly. But when I watch Nola, we can argue about run support all day long. I think that's a fair argument to have. Mm-hmm. But when it comes to him, he tends to be off at times.
I will say he has the stuff of an ace, but always has that kind of like blow up, mm-hmm. that one blow up inning.
We saw it in the World Series.
Well, and just a game a couple weeks ago, he had a no-hitter going into the 7th and then walked a guy, an error, and then the next pitch was a 3-run home run. That was a excellent game he pitched until 1 inning.
Yep. And then it all went downhill. Now,
is that on Topper for not pulling him at the right time? Or, you don't pull a guy when he has a no-hitter going in the 7th.
No.
You're not even supposed to talk about it.
No, correct.
So that's tough. I want Aaron Nola to be an ace. I just think he's going to be a 1 or a 2 starter, depending on, if he stays with the Phils or moves on here in the next year or two.
Yeah, and I think he's going to get his money because that's just how these things work. He's already been dubbed as a great pitcher. But I got to tell you, let's talk about this fact, too. A lot of the talk on Philly Sports Radio Saturday after the game driving back was specifically, is he not used to the pitch clock? Because first of all, let's review a couple of things. I had thought this at the beginning of the year when he had a couple of clunkers. Now, the guys on the radio said, tough. Everybody's got the pitch clock.
Exactly.
It hasn't affected everybody. Mm-hmm. That was like saying, remember, because we're going to talk about college football coming up here too. Some of the college football teams that had an off year, like Penn State in 2020, well, that was, COVID.
COVID.
Okay,
COVID,
everybody had to play under that, and guess what? Nick Saban still won the title. He didn't use it as an excuse.
They also didn't take any time off.
Correct.
So there's that.
Nick Saban wasn't also living apart from his family, like James Franklin was. But there's I digress. The point is, listen, everybody has the same rules. Mm-hmm. But I was at the particular game that Rob Thompson got thrown out of because Bill Miller, the umpire, took exception to Aaron Nola throwing balls back. He kept asking for new baseballs. I loved seeing Topper get ejected because it's the most passion I've seen out of him.
And he's usually a very even keel guy.
Yeah, which I think has helped the team. But that was just ridiculous. Nowhere in the rule book does it say you can't exchange as many times as you want a baseball. That's not in the rules. Larry Anderson had an epic meltdown about that on the radio. I mean, he called it a garbage call.
Yeah.
And I agree, and I think it was, the Bill Miller show and always trying to make it an ump show. But was Aaron Nola trying to stall?
Well, I'd rather constantly ask for a new baseball than using a foreign substance on your hand and getting caught for that.
Exactly.
So if this is the quote-unquote loophole in the pitch clock to constantly ask for a new ball, then if you can use it to your advantage without it be quote-unquote cheating, I have no problem with it. But the whole point of the pitch clock is to move the game along, and now you're stalling.
Do you think that he is having trouble with the pitch clock? Is that a good theory?
There's a constant and a variable here, and the variable is the pitch clock. And we've seen Aaron have good seasons, and this one seems to be a little bit of the outlier. Like I said, it seems to wear on him later in the game, and it's a great theory. I'll say that.
Well, getting back to what the Phillies are as a team in total, they I'm watching 2 games back to back with my son where they walk it off, right? Cody Clemens and then the Schwarber home run.
Yep.
Then we went to the 9-0 shellacking, and then the next day they win. They come back. They beat the Dodgers. So you're beating one of the best teams in baseball in a series. Okay. Then you go out to Arizona, and the Diamondbacks, a surprisingly competent team, very good, a really good record, and JT hits for the cycle.
Yep.
But they lose 9-8, and I'm waking up because it's late for us on the East Coast, and my hours. I'm up at 3 a.m., so I didn't watch that game. But I'm thinking, geez, here we go now. They're winning 7 of the last 8, and then they go out to Arizona, and now all of a sudden they can't pull it off. Okay, well then last night, and we're recording this on Wednesday, I wake up, check the score, it's 15-3 Phillies.
Yes.
So I ask you again, because we're going to take a look at their upcoming schedule here. What is this team? Are they finally coming together or not? Because every time I think they are, they have a stinker of a game.
Well, there's a reason for that. One thing this team does not have right now, at least, is a solid 5th starter. If you look at their schedule, there's a name penciled in every 4 days and a blank spot on the 5th. And I don't think you can be a winning baseball team without a 5-man rotation. When you put out these guys that are just eating up innings and you're doing a bullpen session, essentially, you need somebody that's going to give you 4 innings, 5 innings. And even if they're giving up 4 or 5 runs in those innings, the Phillies have shown they can score 8 to 15 runs on any given night. So if you can just get one guy on that 5th day, I think this is a championship caliber team. Now, they're only really putting it together here in June, and right now they're 500. They are what their record is. They're
not quite though. They can't seem to get over that.
They're 33 and 34.
Right.
But they have been 8-4 since June 1st and 8-2 in their last 10 games. And they've beaten some quality opponents. Now we'll see what ends up happening here with the Diamondbacks if they're able to win 3 of 4 and then go to Oakland and sweep a middling Athletics team.
I tell you what, they've only won 19 games.
You're talking about bad baseball here. So, if you lose any of those games, you got to question your club a little bit.
I don't like West Coast road trips. However, here's the situation. So far, we've split with the Diamondbacks. We play 2 more because you're bringing this up, so I wanted to show you. We play tonight at 9:40, and tomorrow's the getaway game to Oakland. We go 3:40 in the afternoon on Thursday. Then we've got this upcoming weekend, Father's Day weekend against Oakland, which I didn't realize at the time, but there's a reason why they probably want to move to Vegas. Well, actually several, but the A's are terrible.
They're really bad.
There is no reason, and I don't care if we have a 5th. I don't even care if we have 4 starters.
Yeah.
You should win all 3 of those darn games.
And the first game is going to be that question mark who's pitching game.
Yeah.
So sometimes if you do lose that first game against a bad club, that gets a bad taste in everybody's mouth. The doldrums come in, and then next thing you know, you're losing to a really bad team.
Yeah, but and that should not happen.
I think no way they lose any of those games out in Oakland.
I think in order for me to say, okay, this team is good, and I'm going to feel good about them going into the All-Star break, you have to split with the Diamondbacks, which means you got to go 1-1 here.
Yep.
You better sweep the A's. I'm sorry.
Agreed.
You've got to do it. And then we have 2 critical divisional series. Here we go. Now here's the you see what's going on here with this? They are at home for these series.
Yes.
Which is phenomenal. You get
6 straight.
You get the tough team up first with the Atlanta Braves. That's a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday series. They've got next Monday off. You've got a Thursday afternoon game. So that game, again, is a little off the beaten path because it's a 1:05 start on a Thursday. I think because they're at home, you got to do to the Braves what you did to the Dodgers. Take 2 of 3.
Yeah. You have to, out of these 6 games, especially the way the Mets are playing right now, you got to go 4-2.
Correct.
And then if you add that to the current 8-4 record, and you end up getting 3 more against Oakland.
Yep.
And you get this split against the Diamondbacks, all of a sudden this team is like
looking pretty good.
16-6 over the last, 22 games.
I'd be very happy with that because then the Mets come to town. I mean, again, they're 1-9 in their last 10. They are a flailing team. I mean, you heard Gary Cohn say, "I don't know what rock bottom looks like, but I think this is it."
Pretty close to it.
You got your Apple TV game on a Friday, and then you've got your typical 4:05 and 1:35 start. That's a pretty typical weekend series for the Phils. I think you've got to take 2 out of 3 from the Braves, and then the way the Mets are playing, sweep them.
But they have a shot here to be well over 500 for the month of June, and Mr. Schwarber has been heating up. He's had 5 home runs over the last 12 games. Juning is a thing. We have texted that back and forth with our colleague Dan Tomaso. The big thing is, even getting through this month, you need to be consistent and sustain this little run they're going on. And that's where they haven't done the previous part of the season.
The opportunities exist in front of them, especially with that series against the A's and then your divisional teams. Let's get it done. Let's get it done. All right, that is your Phillies chatter for this week. A little college football for you before we let everybody move on here. And I want to go over again, it's June, so we're going to go over the Penn State schedule. And just quickly about Penn State, because then we've got some more exciting news coming your way tonight. But if you had to pick a game or two that are not Ohio State, Michigan on that schedule, where would your concern be?
I hate that I'm going to say this. The Dirty Terps.
That's surprising.
Just because we have dominated them a lot recently, and every time they get us at their home turf, so to speak, they try to do the blackout, which did not work out in their favor.
Rarely does.
But I think Maryland has some talent on their team. Just can they use their talent efficiently? And not saying they're going to lose against them.
Sure.
But that could be kind of a trap game going into
the Michigan
before
game.
Michigan.
Yeah,
you're kind of looking ahead, and then all of a sudden here comes the Dirty Terps, and they maybe make it a little tougher. Now, in my deep down soul, I know they're going to win that game and handedly, but it puts a question mark because it is before the Michigan game.
I think that's fair. I actually like that. It is a road game, conference road game. You never know. I'm going to give you mine.
Yep.
Right there, Illinois on the road.
Yeah.
Brett Bielema. We've had fits with Illinois the last couple of years. We lost the 9 overtime game at home to Illinois.
Still hurts.
Bielema has a way of getting his teams ready to play. They're physical.
Yep.
He's meant for the Big Ten. Illinois has been a lot better under him than anybody else recently. So just keep an eye on that, because you've got West Virginia, not a very good team. That's your opener in primetime Delaware.
Yeah.
Are you going to be really ready and road tested to go to Champaign, your first opening conference road game? I don't know. I mean, it makes me a little nervous.
I'd love to have a opening conference home game one of these years. We haven't had one in a couple, right?
Yeah, for fear of criticizing that. James Franklin has openly criticized that.
Yes.
And we will see what 24 brings. The 24 schedule is out. We just don't know the dates yet.
Correct.
And we'll have lots to get into with that. Some of this we want to save for when our friend Danny is back.
Of course.
Let's talk about the SEC schedule, though, because that is actually coming out, a big program tonight on the SEC network. They're doing a whole pomp and circumstance over their big 2024 schedule release. Now, keep in mind, they're only doing 8 conference games. They didn't pull the trigger on 9. So that leaves, again, some middling opponents in there. But I'm just curious, what are some games that you want to see played next year? You know, Sankey has already said they're keeping the Iron Bowl. They're going to keep the Egg Bowl. You can't get rid of those, or else he wouldn't be commissioner anymore. We know we're going to get all the classic rivalries. You're not going to get rid of Florida, Georgia, Alabama, Auburn, Mississippi, Mississippi State, LSU, Alabama. But I'm wondering, with Texas and Oklahoma coming in, who are some opponents you'd love to see those 2 schools play?
Well, I mean, I think Texas A&M is one that everybody wants to see, come back to an every year kind of thing. I think actually Oklahoma playing anybody in the top of the SEC conference should be a good game.
It should be, but remember, they had a bad year last year.
Yes, I know, but that should be a good game. That's the reason I said should. But
Oklahoma, LSU,
at least making it, Alabama, LSU,
Alabama, Texas, keep that because they play this year.
Yeah.
But that would be a fun game to have on the schedule.
And even Oklahoma, Florida, I think, whether it's down in the swamp or not, I mean, that at least there's this pedigree to those colleges playing each other, that even though it's not your granddad's SEC,
it's going to draw eyeballs.
It's going to draw eyeballs for sure.
And that's what we're looking for. I mean, can you imagine Texas playing Georgia?
That would be interesting,
right? Oklahoma playing Arkansas, or Lane Kiffin going into the Burnt Orange Stadium, Darrell K. Royal Stadium. I mean, these are some fun games that I think could appear on the docket.
That's the reason they should have added a game.
Exactly.
That's the point, right?
And that's the point. And I think we're going to see how this plays out tonight. We can talk more next week when we actually know the matchups.
Yes.
I don't think they're going to get rid of any of the rivalries, but it's going to be fun to see how they kind of shoehorn Texas and Oklahoma into an 8-game schedule next year. Now, speaking of that, I thought it would be fun before we leave for the week here. I want to show you some September games that are on the schedule here. September to remember here, some highlighted games early in the season. And I'm going to have you pick out on each of these lists some good ones. How about on week 0, we get the opener Navy, Notre Dame, and Dublin. And before you say, well, Navy's not been great lately and Notre Dame's okay, keep in mind Notre Dame lost to Marshall last year and to a terrible Stanford team. Now Marcus Freeman's got to go all the way to Ireland. Mm-hmm. Interesting opener, isn't it?
Interesting opener, and I forget who was the coach that said it, but like everybody never worries about beating Navy, but they're always worried that they might get beat by Navy because they do run a non-traditional offense, as we know, and it's something you have to game plan for, but you should be able to handle, and you never know. There's some mix up over there in the coaching ranks, and you're on the aisle, so to speak, in Dublin. So it could be an interesting little matchup.
I like it. That's how the season starts.
Exactly.
Week 0, August 26th. And then, I know I have a September on there to remember. But again, there's some early games. 8:31, that's a Thursday. Mm-hmm. That's when everything gets started. How about Florida at Utah? Yeah. Interesting game. We saw last year's game and how the Gators squeaked it out with Anthony Richardson. But I don't think Florida has much. I think Utah at home is going to be way too much, but it's still a fun game for an SEC team to travel to the Pac-12.
For sure.
Dion alert.
Yeah, we'll
big noon
kickoff.
Yeah,
we'll see what their team is.
The team that was in the national title game.
Yeah.
Do they have a team? I mean,
well.
Does Dion have anybody left? He didn't kick out.
Does he have over 35 on the roster at this point now? I haven't seen any updates on that.
If I cared more about Colorado, I would look.
But I think obviously Prime is going to bring the cameras, and he's bringing his luggage. So we'll see if his luggage is actually filled with any good players.
I have my doubts, but again, this guy is going to get eyeballs no matter what.
Well, and it's not going to be an instantaneous hey, Colorado's on the map. I mean, you have to go through the transition of the new coaching staff, the loss of the players. Not to say that Dion can't turn this program around, but is it going to happen this year?
I doubt
that's the big question mark.
Listen, if they could get to a bowl game or be fighting for a bowl game in November, that's a win.
And they're probably going to have butts in the seats this year, unlike they have in the past.
At least in September. I mean, I think he's got to be in these games, and they will.
Yeah.
So and again, for these ADs, that's what matters. Mm-hmm. How about this fun game to kick off the ABC primetime lineup? Mac Brown, Shane Beamer, North Carolina versus South Carolina, and Charlotte. That's a fun one.
And this is a football game, right? Not basketball?
This is a football game.
Just want to make sure.
I got to tell you, it's a fun football game because you've got Drake May taking on Shane Beamer and I'm blanking on his name now, the quarterback for South Carolina, Spencer. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I will tell you that
Spencer
Rattler. The Rattler. So that's going to be a fun game. And then you've got, again, Sunday night on ABC. Mm-hmm. How about that? LSU versus FSU. That's really the highlight of the weekend.
And that's the big rematch, right?
That's the big rematch. And,
neutral site, too.
Brian Kelly lost on the extra point kick. Yeah, that's in Orlando. So that's really going to be the highlight of the weekend. Then the following weekend, as we go through the first month here, how about Jimbo going to Miami? Now, we don't really know what Miami's going to be, but again, I think it's an interesting SEC team going on the road to Miami. Can Mario Cristobal use his recruiting? And we don't know, again, what A&M's going to be.
Well, and yet again another team.
Cue it up.
Stand by. I'm a little behind because I'm on the mic.
You're on the mic here, but we what are they going to be? Listen to that baby purr. That's going to be they're going to be riding a whole slew of motorcycles to Miami.
It's possible. Now we know A&M has had these great recruiting classes. They have the talent. Jimbo just needs to prove that they're not a 500 team, you know?
Yes, he does. And again, they had flashes last year, but this would be a game I think he needs to win to prove that he can compete in the SEC West, certainly. And then there it is, Texas at Alabama. That's a 7 o'clock game on ESPN on September 7th. That is going to be a fun one. Can Texas put up a fight in Bryant-Denny? I don't know. I still like Nick Saban here, but I'll tell you, a lot of people are picking Texas to win the Big 12, so that could be a fun game. Let's show you some more here. We move to the next weekend. CBS gets into the SEC action on the 16th of September. South Carolina, again, had a bit of a renaissance at the end of last year. They have to go between the hedges to Georgia. Georgia, this is going to be the toughest game on their schedule till they get to Tennessee in November. Yep. And I don't think it's that tough, but it's intriguing because, again, South Carolina ended the year on a high note. Yeah,
and I mean, I think any team not named Alabama is looking at a loss there. But, hey, they have to play the games. And, early on, you never know if you can catch a quality caliber team like the Bulldogs
off guard.
Sure.
That's going to be fun. And then Washington at Michigan State, kind of an intriguing interconference matchup. Washington's been better than Michigan State. We already talked about. We don't know what Mel Tucker's going to have. It wasn't much last year. That's a Peacock exclusive game, which has made a lot of people upset. That's at 5 o'clock. And then how about the Backyard Brawl? That's the primetime treatment on ABC on September 16th. Again, not teams that might be in contention for anything big, but I'll tell you, it's fun to see that matchup again.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think college football is known for its rivalries, and getting some of these rivalries back is what it's really all about. It is for the fans.
It is. I want you to mark your calendar. September 23rd is going to be just an amazing day of college football, and there's going to be two primetime games right now. I have a feeling the third game down there is going to be the ABC primetime game. Okay. But Ohio State at Notre Dame, that's a 7:30 kick on NBC. Fun game.
Yeah, and that game was close early in the season last year, and we didn't quite think Notre Dame was as good as they maybe were touted at the beginning of the season.
And now Ohio State has to go under the Golden Dome, so that could be fun. And then, of course, the whiteout game. Penn State fans excited for that. Iowa coming to Happy Valley. That's a CBS kick this year in primetime. We've talked about that. I don't know what Iowa has. They always give Penn State fits.
There's always a last-second field goal involved, it seems like.
Well, welcome to the whiteout, Kirk and Brian Ferentz. Yes. And then Florida State at Clemson. This is going to be huge in the ACC. Can Clemson reclaim their glory, or can Florida State, some people have them as a preseason top 5 team, can they come off a win or a loss of LSU, and now they have to go to Howard's Rock, Death Valley, number 2 at Clemson? That's going to be a fun game.
I think this all is kind of a big deal for Dabo's legacy right now, too, because he was on such a high there for a while, and now people are starting to be like, well, was it really just a couple little players you had here and there?
Hey, they are little old Clemson.
He has something to prove,
That's going to be one heck of a lineup. And then another fun one, Hugh Freeze goes to Kyle Field, Texas A&M. Again, can Jimbo have that squad ready? That's going to be an intriguing game for both coaches to see if they can get a bowl game because we just don't know enough about what each team is going to be this year. But that's going to be a fun SEC game. That is likely, in my opinion, going to be the CBS 3:30 game. We'll see. Those games technically are announced. But you tell me, there's a lot of duds on week 1. But tell me that's not a fun way to kick the season off.
Oh, no. I mean, it's nice to see some of these matchups, especially because I think a lot of these teams have question marks right now about what they're going to be like. And that's the great thing about college football is everybody's – or any sport for that matter. Everybody's 0-0 at the start of the season, and you get to prove yourself.
You really do.
College football seems to take a little longer to weed out the good teams because of the way these schedules are a little bit backloaded, unless you're in the SEC.
Yes, but love cupcake. I love a good cupcake in November.
But it's good to see these matchups for sure.
I think it's fun. Well, this has been Weather Wagers for this week, and remember that you can always find us right here, weatherwagers@gmail.com. Give Dan a shout out as he's home with the baby for another few weeks. You can find him, meteorologist Dan Tomaso, on Facebook, Twitter, at Doppler Dan, and the same thing on Instagram. And, of course, you can get us wherever you get your podcast. So, David, I will tell you, it has been fun to have you in the co-host chair here. We're going to do it again next week. We got to review our U.S. Open picks. We'll give you an update on the Phillies. And, of course, we may try to have some fun here, too, and look out ahead and predict more schedules.
All right. Looking forward to it.
Have a great week, everybody. We'll see you right back here next week.